Devin, you want to play a game?
Not with you.
This is our top 5 solo games.
I'm Devin,
And I'm Paul.
and we are the Dads and Dice. And although we love playing games together, really, we find ourselves playing quite a bit of solo too. So this is going to be our list of our favorite top 5 solo games. We'll start it off with my number 5, Scholars of the South Tigris.
Nice.
Scholars of the South Tigris is one of Garfield's games in the South Tigris trilogy, his directional trilogy. And in this one, you are going to be trying to convert different scrolls over to Arabic. And there's honestly a lot of mechanics to kind of go over right now, but the biggest thing is you have these dice and this awesome dice manipulation mechanic where you can increase the pip values, you can add dice together, you can change their colors. That's a big one where you have primary and secondary colors, and all of this lets you do different actions at different power levels. And honestly, I love the game. I have played it at 1, 2, and 3. All of those were good. I actually really like the solo though. I like when a solo lets me be able to play my same game that I would play multiplayer, and Scholars does that. The AI is smart, but it doesn't get in my way, and that's what I don't really want. I want it to be, I'm trying to still play this game, not I'm trying to just manipulate the AI into winning this game. And Scholars does it so well.
So this game, honestly, I'm surprised that this one's on your list because we've talked about it a couple times, and you've said that Scholars it's not that you don't enjoy it, but it's a game that kind of took you a while to warm up to. And I remember after that first playthrough that you played solo, you said, "Oh, I really like this." And I think it's just something that we've kind of come to expect with Garfield games, right? It's just their solos are letting you play the same game, and they're so easy to manage. And man, yeah, they just make tons of good solos.
Yeah, so that was my number 5. What do you have, Paul?
So my number 5 game is actually going to be Warp's Edge. So I just did a live stream of this one not too long ago. Joe gave me this game for my birthday, and this is a solo-only bag builder. So this game, you have a bunch of different variable setups. You have a bunch of different ships that you can use that have different powers. You have the different motherships. So really on your turn, all you're doing is drawing some tokens out of your bag. Those tokens can be lasers, they can be evasion, and you're trying to either stun them, outmaneuver them, or actually destroy them. Anytime you do that to the enemy ships, you gain more chits into your bag. You also have energy that you can buy more chits, so you're just building up that bag. And you're just kind of going through this enemy fleet, trying to attack that mothership, and then just defeat it. Honestly, bag builders are a really fun, just kind of mechanic in general, right? Just digging in there. I don't know what it is, but between a bag and a deck, I would much rather just build out a bag. And the fact that it's a solo game, the fact that it has so many variable options in it, man, it's just a fun one that, I'm just going to keep on getting to the table. Once I've kind of played it enough, just, the game, there's also the singularity, which is kind of like a narrative driven, like, oh, you're this ship and now you have to go through here, and you've warped and now you have this ship and this mothership. So there's just a ton of variability in that game.
Yeah, so I watched your live stream recently. I could tell you were definitely into it, so not at all surprised it made your list. Let's get over to our number 4s. Okay, so for my number 4 game, I'm going to stick on that Garfield train, and I am going to do Architects of the West Kingdom.
Okay.
I'm also going to add a caveat specifically with the 2 expansions, Works of Wonder and Age of Artisan, because truthfully, without those, I think it goes from a bland, basic, pick up, drop off resource game to something with a whole lot more depth.
From C tier to S tier.
Yeah, it does. Those 2 expansions just do so much. And really, they also revamp the solo, which is why I like it. The base solo is before Garfield kind of got to their little, we'll call it rotational track type of resource gathering thing, that it now adds that. And Architects of the West Kingdom, it is at its core a pick up and drop off. You're just going to be picking up a lot of resources, fulfilling contracts, dumping them into the cathedral. But over time, they've added asymmetrical player powers, and there are all kinds of wild different things. And then just with the expansions, having all of the townsfolk that you tuck cards in, or tuck cards under to double kind of benefit or get extra benefits. Having the buildings that you then tuck things over for immediate effects or getting the building effect again. Man, and then getting to navigate that princess and profiteer, the princess and the profiteer. So that is one where I still get to play my same game, but the AI is smart and feels like a player when I'm trying to figure out, okay, I want to be the most with the princess here. I want to get them with profiteer there. Whatever the case is, the AI is smart, so it still feels like another player, and I don't know, I just really like the solo. I probably spend way too much time analyzing it. My games of it are easily 2.5 hours because like I just get in it and I grind and I love it.
That's so funny. Yeah, that one is awesome. I love the worker investment, right? I've heard you call it that before. It's not just worker placement where you're just putting a piece out and then getting it back. The more you have, the better it builds, and then the more resources you get. And you're absolutely right. The AI is going to capture them and put them in jail. So you can't invest as much as you want. You can't just run away with one resource. They are going to hinder you, and they are going to block your moves, and they are going to do whatever they can to come out on top. And you're absolutely right. It feels like you're just playing with another player. And once again, Garfield knows how to do their solos.
That's right. So that was my number 4. What about yours, Paul?
So my number 4 is actually Turing Machine. I love Turing Machine as a solo game. I've talked about it before. It's just a game that you can get out at any time, 15 minutes, done, right? So Turing Machine is a deduction game that I don't know how they did it, but they have all these cards with a bunch of little cutouts in it, and you're going to be trying to deduce a 3-number number, right? A 3-digit number. And so you have these verifiers, and the verifiers are things like the first column and the second column add up to this number, or there are 1, 2, or 3 of this number in there, or there's pairs, there's triplets, there's no pairs, there's no repeating numbers. So it's all these different verifiers that you are testing against the code that you think it is, that you're predicting. And just the system, the way that it works, it's so interesting, and just once it clicks, it's just a little puzzle of just trying to figure it out. And I've talked about it before, a lot of people will do like their daily Wordles or their daily, kind of challenges. And that's pretty much what Turing Machine is. It's just a little daily thing that you can do, knock it out 15, 20 minutes, even less than 10 minutes sometimes. You can do them back to back to back, but it's just a nice little daily challengey puzzle that I really enjoy.
Yeah, so I will only say 2 quick things about Turing Machine. One, I am completely amazed at just how it works, right?
Yeah.
It is crazy that your little things give you the checks and the
check
X's,
and the X.
and that part's amazing. Blows me away. Second, I think it is a good game. It's just one that's not for me. You're going to find with my entire list, when I get out a solo, I want to play something for 2 hours. I want to really grind. That game's over in 10 minutes.
Yep.
I'm almost never going to set up a game if it's going to take me that. Even if I could play it back to back for 2 hours, I don't want to do that. I want to grind away at something. So it's just not my type of game.
Yeah, and that's definitely, like I said, it's hard to even say it's a board game per se, right? It's a deduction puzzle.
Yeah, it's
and
a puzzle.
that's what it is.
It's 100% just a puzzle. Every
Yes.
time is a different puzzle, and so it's infinitely replayable from that aspect.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's
not
ultimately a
going to be
puzzle.
your crunchy head down, let me analyze, let me figure out how to play Architects, which is a 45-60-minute game, in 2 hours, right? This one is just let me use my brain and let me try to figure out this puzzle. And honestly, that's why I love it.
Okay, let's get over to our number 3s. So my number 3 is going to be PAX Premiere.
Okay.
So, a game I honestly really like, a game that is very unique to a lot of other games that I play. And it's going to be the only one that's on this list, but for the reason that I said, Scholars, I enjoy it, lets me play my game. PAX Premiere is not that way, but I think the AI is just so unique that it's its own game, right? Playing solo with the AI is completely different than any time you will ever play multiplayer. That game is kind of one that at all player counts, the game can be very different in kind of what you're having to go for. But at the solo, I think it's the Wu-Tan. I could be wrong about that.
Wu-Tang Clan?
Tiger style. Yo. Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to...
Maybe it's not the Wu-Tan. Wu-Tai? I don't know. But they are so powerful that you have to be on this manipulation game. And so you're playing just a totally different version of the game. PAX is not something that is super glorious to look at on the table. It's a cloth map that's like, whatever, this big. And
The towers.
Yeah.
Honestly, I love the components of that
and
game.
then, those clay pieces, right? They're pretty cool. But it is, to me, that's the puzzle I really want is, okay, how do I manipulate this situation knowing how much coins it has and what it wants, and oh, I can't let it get that card, or I can't let it score right now, so let me see what I can do to maybe just barely score ahead of it or whatnot. I don't know, just love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So for my number 3, I have Black Sonata, right? Black Sonata, it's another one-player only game. Hidden movement deduction game, so another deduction game. And this one, just like Turing Machine, it blows my mind on how it works. You have this stealth deck, and the stealth deck has a bunch of different columns on it and a bunch of different letters. And so to set up the stealth deck, you are going to pick one of those columns and then alphabetize the cards, right? So you can do the first column and then just have the alphabetized there. You can flip it from Z to A, so it kind of changes the movement of the Black Lady. So you are taking on the role of a historian. You are searching for Shakespeare's Dark Lady. Apparently he had some mistress that he would go out with in the night, whatever. So you have a board, and it's London. And so on your turn, what you do is you move the Dark Lady by flipping one of those stealth cards. And then on the board, you're trying to figure out, oh, okay, maybe she went to this tavern, or maybe she went to this house, or maybe she went to this river. And then you will actually move. So if you think that you're in the same spot as you and the Dark Lady, you can do a search action. And so then there's another location card that you put underneath the stealth card, you flip it over, and if there's a silhouette, then that means that the Dark Lady's there, kind of thing. So throughout this game, you're just gathering a bunch of clues of what characteristics she might have. So maybe she's a musician, maybe she's a writer, maybe she has some other characteristics. And when you think that you have figured out those characteristics, you then perform another search action, and then you say, okay, this is what I think the Dark Lady has, this is where I think she's at, let's test it. You flip it over. If you're correct, you win. If you're not, you lose, kind of thing. So this game, I've gotten to play a lot of it, quite a bit lately. But even before that, I had the print and play version of it. It's just a really awesome way of doing hidden movement for a solo game, right? Like that's not something that you see a lot of. I'm generally pretty good at finding where she's at. I'm generally not very good at finding out what characteristics she has. So again, it's just a game that I can play over and over and over. And even though I lose all the time in it, it's one that I just continue getting because just the mechanics work so well, and it's just super intuitive and it flows really well. It's just a really great game.
Okay, let's get over to our number 2s. Okay, my number 2. Got to get back to Garfield straight away for too long. Paladins of the West Kingdom.
Okay.
This is one of my all-time favorite games. And when it comes to solo, I just love it too. I honestly have played this game at all 4 player counts, and all of them are good. What I really like about Paladins in general is this is truly a head down, crunchy, very close to multiplayer solitaire, but there's also enough player interaction with the commissioning board and what
and
is
the tax stand and the
yeah, and then
garrisoning.
no, it's the commissioning and the
It's garrisoning the red buildings.
is that what it
Yeah.
is?
Yeah.
Okay, garrisoning. And then with the expansions on that, although really this one can
not
be
need the
standalone
expansion, yeah.
either way, but with the expansions, it adds even more and more player interaction that way. Townsfolk, I think there's just enough, and the AI, this was the first Garfield to really kind of start defining the AI style, and the AI plays smart. It is going to go after the spaces. It is going to block things that you are about to do next turn, and you're going to be so upset by it. And I think that Paladins is such a great game. There's just so much strategy from the first second you're playing. I absolutely love it at all player counts, but definitely solo.
Funny enough, this was a game that the first couple times we played it, I was just like, I'm done. I can't do this game. And we played it fairly early on into at least my board, like intro into the hobby. I was just like, I can't play it. Something about this year has made me pick up that game again. I think I've soloed it 5 or 6 times this year, just to try and figure out that game. And exactly what you said, the first move that you do is crucial for the rest of your game. That first townsfolk that you draft kind of dictates the rest of your game. And you're absolutely right, just that the way that the AI functions, with every time them gaining a coin or a provision, it's moving up and it's drafting different cards and it's blocking you out on there. And if you completely ignore it, it's just gonna take over, right? So you do have to interact with it. And yeah, it was a game that, the first couple times that you play it, you're not going to do well. Like, you're just not going to. But the more you play it, the more you figure it out, the more those little intricacies come out. It's a game that really does shine, and it's a terrific solo game.
Okay, what's your number 2?
My number 2 game is Lands of Gowser. So Lands of Gowser is a multiplayer game, and I've only ever played it multiplayer with you that one time. And after playing it with you that one time, not that I don't like playing games with you, I realized I don't ever want to play this game with anybody else, right? This is a game that I am going on my own little journeys, and I'm just fulfilling my own adventures, right? So Lands of Gowser, you have a little character, and I have Bolmir. He's my little polecat that I've had for over a year now. But really, all you're doing is moving a couple spaces, reading some type of narrative text, and then fulfilling quests. That's all it is. At the end of the game, there's no real winners or losers. It's just kind of an open world adventuring game, which seem to be pretty popular now with Mythwind and all these other kind of games that are out there. But I think this one is just one that's simple enough, just barely moving. It tells a great story. It's immersive. I get into it. I turn on some, little fantasy music, and I'm done within an hour. And it's just a game that I really enjoy.
Yeah, the one time I played it, it was very neat. I don't know if I would personally play it that much more, but I can definitely see how you can just put that game out there and follow whatever story is of the night, and that's really what it is. You're going to go on this little adventure from this town to this town, sail across this sea, end up, fighting some street rats or in prison or whatever. So I can see the appeal of just, I'm going to chill and see where this story takes me.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's just one of those that instead of, going to watch a TV show for an hour, I'm going to make my own story and enjoy that.
Yeah, so let's get over to our number 1s. For my number 1, it has to be Mage Knight. this was one of the first games I really got deep into the hobby. Recently have kind of revitalized playing it, but it is one I have always touted. I will only play it solo, first and foremost, but it's one I have always touted as being an amazing solo. So where Paul has his Turing machine, this is my puzzle. This is what I want to do. It is nothing more than a puzzle with a little bit of deck building aspect and trying to figure out how am I going to accomplish what seems completely impossible at the start of the game. It seems like I can't even beat this small little orc grunts out there, and I have to go raid 2 different cities with dragons and all kinds of giants defending it. And it is possible, and that's what makes it so much fun. There is really zero narrative, zero story to it. However, it ends up being this story of you coming out into this land and destroying the orcs and destroying the roaming dragons, but then also raiding these people's fortresses and raiding their keeps and raiding their towers. And it creates its own story every single time you play. I love Mage Knight.
And that, honestly, that sounds something like that would be right up my alley, right, with that story being created. But I'm not gonna lie, that giant box up there, it's pretty intimidating. From some of the stuff that I've seen, there's a lot going on, and I'm not gonna lie, like, just looking at it, I'm a little bit hesitant to try it, but it sounds awesome.
It's the rules are almost written like a law book.
Oh.
It's like just like sections with subsections and
Appendixes,
yeah,
with this and that.
There is so much rules overhead with it, and the unfortunate thing is you have to know them, and they're not all that intuitive. But if you know them and you know how to play, man, Mage Knight, excellent game.
Nice. All right, we'll get into my number 1 game, and that is Legacy of You. Legacy of You is my number 1 solo game. It is, for me, the perfect blend of mechanics and story, right? Again, it's just another solo game, and basically it's collecting resources, building up some type of, buildings that give you other powers, give you abilities during your resets, getting out buildings and huts, right? So all that kind of stuff. So you're just building something up, and you're trying to defeat the barbarians, all while you're trying to move down this river before the river catches up to you. But what I absolutely loved about this game was just, you finished this section of the canal, and now you have to read this story element. So you read the story element, then it adds something else into the game. So spoiler alerts, but it might add your little food storage thing that the monkey keeps on stealing, or it's going to add that barbarian fort that forces you to kind of change your gameplay just enough to not completely change the game, but to make it to where you're not playing the exact same game 7 to 14 times in a row. And the fact that it's resettable makes it extremely replayable. You're not going to see all of the same narrative text throughout it. And honestly, for me, if you know anything about me, I like that narrative part of the story. And then just the trading resources for this and getting these different types of workers to defeat this, right? I'm picking up stuff here, putting stuff down there, fulfilling this, and just everything about it. It gives me kind of like a Hadrian's Wall feel with like the trading all the resources, but with that story in it.
Yeah, so I think Legacy of You is a completely fantastic solo game. I think it's to me a dang near perfect solo game. You have to like the gameplay loop.
Yes.
That is going to hang some people off because it's basically gaining provisions to send out warriors to attack, to get more provisions and warriors
To build
then,
up your buildings.
Yeah, to then send them out to attack. And there is very much this set gameplay loop. I love it. I think it's absolutely fantastic. But the narrative is the perfect amount of narrative for it. You're going to be interrupted, not constantly, in the beginning quite a bit, toward the end not as much, but you're going to be getting interrupted a fair amount, and it's quick paragraph, maybe two of text, and that's it. And I think that was the perfect amount.
Yeah.
The reason this game did not actually make my list was because you have to play it as a campaign.
Yes.
In my life, I don't have time for that. I got that game. I played 2 campaigns back to back, so completely loved it. And unfortunately, I know it is going to sit up there on my shelf for quite some time because I know I don't have time to commit to, let's call it 10 sessions, putting somewhere in the average. And for me, that held it back on actually making my list of favorite solo games. But it's overall a fantastic solo.
Yeah, for me, it's just that perfect blend of mechanics and story that just it flows so well. And once again, Garfield Games, you know, they're knocking it out of the park with those solos.
Yeah, had to make it one more time on the list, just not on mine. But that was our favorite solo game. So in the comments below, tell us what's your favorite solo games. Tell us that our opinion is trash and that these games are not good solo.
Or whose list do you prefer, Devin's or mine?
Tell us that. Or, you know what? Don't tell us anything and hit that subscribe. You can also do that for us. But we are the Dads and Dice, and we will see you next time.
Hold on.
Hold on. You don't know you're number 1?
No, I do.